Now, hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dave Emmons Show. And actually, I'm going to be doing another network before long, but I will be showing my videos and my shows on Facebook. So I'm not going to let you forget my ugly face. So we're going to keep it at you. So but I have guests that I really enjoy bringing on because of their expertise and what they've been doing. I have two people today, and they're going to talk about ghost and also the ET subject and UFO, and they're very knowledgeable people. They've been requested to do some TV shows, and they have other things they're going to do. They're going to have their own little show, so they're going to be on the internet before long. Before I get into them, I know I'm taking cheap shots here with everybody with my books, but it's one way to market my book and let you know that we're still on sale. That's today. What do they want? And that was published a year ago. Yes, it's been a year now, and it picks up numbers every once in a while. Every quarter, it kind of picks up. But we all know that UFO and ET and ghost books sell slow, so we have to be patient. So here's my second book, Senseless Wars, and I hope everybody picks up on that one too. That was released August of last year. But my third book, Angels and the Supernatural Entities, will be released in 2 weeks. And that kind of covers the ghost thing, in which Laura, the guest here, is going to talk a little bit about, and Bob, her friend's going to be with her on that. And let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. And about the network I'm going to join next Thursday. It's actually I talked to Michelle DeRocher, and she's with United Public Radio Network, and it's goes through SoundCloud link, and it's going to be called Strange Reality with Dave Emmons. So I'm going to change the title a little bit, but it's not. It's going to be the same old me. So well, I'll put that out on Facebook when that comes about. But it's the Outer Realm. So that's the show that they have. It's the Outer Realm, and it goes all over the world. And it's they go 2 million, 3 million views. So they're a larger network, and that's a nice horse for me to hitch my wagon to. So, and I was just talking at this lovely couple a while ago. They're really nice people, and I have to say that first. We're going to have Laura Bright, actually, it's her nickname. Her daddy gave that to her, and Bob McGwier. They're a UFO paranormal power couple who were thrown together by the phenomena. Laura is a psychic medium and experiencer. He is a scientist and engineer with internationally recognized credentials. They will speak of their work together. Lala, earliest paranormal recollection is of her finding her neighbor's grave in a Baltimore cemetery with thousands of graves by hearing the deceased neighbor calling her. This was age 5, and she couldn't read. Her father, a Reiki practitioner. Oh, your dad was a Reiki practitioner. Yeah, just saw that. And he was an experiencer, an energy worker, recognized her instantly. She now speaks to the deceased, and for those who need it, she speaks to aliens for those who need it. She calls energy beings to her home daily and gets them to respond intelligently. Bob, on the other hand, Dr. Robert W. McGwier, he's got so many, I guess, alphabet letters after his name. He's worked in a little bit of everything. We were just talking about that. He's a master of all trades, So he's been in a lot of different departments at colleges. He's a faculty member with Virginia Tech, affiliated faculty member, and he was affiliated faculty member at University of Scranton, and former ARDC member of board. And he'll have to, I guess, tell you all about that. And there's a site here called Skyscrapers. We'll let him talk about that too. Bob served in the U.S. intel community for 27 years as a scientist and was chief scientist of Hume Center for National Security and Technology at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's a great school. Matter of fact,
I love it.
Yeah, it's highly rated. And coming from there, being a faculty member, kudos, Bob. That's great.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, and the technology at Virginia Tech for 11 years before he retired and did UFO and paranormal research as a avocation. So that's what he's doing now. He's doing UFO research. He's an engineer and applied math person in quantum theory. So that's what took him into the CT thing. And with all that expertise between the both of them, I think we're gonna have a good show. And I want you to, each one of you, introduce yourselves and just tell us what your expertise is. I've already mentioned, but I just want you two to start off and introduce yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
She's telling me to go first.
Okay, Dr. Bob, go.
Okay, so I'm Bob McGwier. I was born in Tennessee, and a year later moved to Alabama, where I moved to Southwest Alabama. The interesting part of my story begins right after birth. Just before I was 1 year old, I contracted cerebral meningitis, and I had 30-second and longer cardiac arrests. So you can say I had 3 NDEs before I was 1 year old.
Oh.
And later on, at 3 years old, after we had moved to Alabama, I walked out of my bedroom and into where my mother and her best friend were drinking coffee. And I grabbed a book off the shelf and began to read it. It was an adult level novel, but no one had ever taught me to read. It just happened. So I kept showing technical and educational abilities that were not easily explained. And at 10 years old, I became an amateur radio operator. I built my own telescope. I built model rockets. I helped my neighbor put together the largest fossil collection in the state of Alabama. He became a geologist for Exxon, and you get the idea. I was just this technical wizard geek kid from about the time I was 10. And at 18, after getting all these kudos in high school, I went off to be, I'm sorry. And the other thing I did when I was 10 was I memorized Gray's Anatomy, which is the book used in medical schools to teach anatomy, from cover to cover in 30 days.
Wow. Now,
And
so you'd be a classmate I'd be jealous of. I wouldn't think that you're a geek. I've always appreciated the smart kids.
Everybody thought I was a geek and a nerd. Okay, that I was obnoxious. So anyway, but because I couldn't help but share all the stuff, and they were bored with me sharing. Anyway, so my family thought, oh, he knows Gray's Anatomy already. He should go off and be a medical doctor. So I went off to college to be a medical doctor. So during my first semester, the girlfriend in high school and I both went to the same university, and I was doing pre-med. Picked her up on a Friday evening to drive us home. It's about a little over a 2-hour trip. And along the way, we had an hour and a half of missing time and went way out in the boondocks and had to find our way home. So we arrived very late to worried families.
Wow.
So 2 weeks later, I'm not going to be a doctor anymore. I'm not even going to be in the same school. I left that school. I went to a different one. I got a degree in applied mathematics and engineering and took every physics course I could take on the way to getting out. So I left there, went to work for Sandia National Labs, which is the Department of Energy nuclear weapons engineering place and does work for the Air Force. Stayed there for a year and decided that I needed a PhD to get the respect I felt I deserved working at a very high level. So I went to Brown University and got a PhD. And then I joined a place that worked for the intelligence community. And I worked for the intelligence community through this place in Princeton, New Jersey, and in Fort Meade, Maryland, for 27 years.
So there's certain things you can't talk about.
Yeah, I won't be able to tell you the things I did.
Right.
But they were technical, mathematical, but I also did field operations. And during the time I was in, I visited 70 different countries on behalf of the government. So anyway, so it was an interesting career that I never anticipated having with a PhD in math. So anyway, it was interesting. So I left there, went to Blacksburg, Virginia, with a 1-year detour through Oak Ridge, but then to Blacksburg, Virginia, and assumed the role chief scientist at the Hume Center, and my partner and buddy from work, he became the executive director. So I kind of led the technical stuff and he led the managerial stuff. And the two of us built the best the best supported research center at Virginia Tech in under 10 years.
Wow.
So at 10 years, both of us decided, well, we had accomplished what Ted Hume wanted us to do, and we decided to leave. He went on to become a senior vice president for MITRE Corporation, and I retired. Both of us had started these companies. COVID hit. I was alone in a building for 200 people, and I had enough, so I retired. While I was in retirement, before retirement, I heard of Chris Bledsoe through various contacts, and that heard inside the government that things were going on. So I wrote to Chris and asked him, could I come over? He said yes. So I went over and visited, and he told me that Jim Stimulvan told him to let me in. And so I came in and we hung out, and by the end of the weekend, I had seen two massive 40-foot in diameter orbs fly right over the top of our head. I've seen these little flash bulbs go off in the sky, and there was this purple aura that looked like the surface of a lake, but it was purple looking, smoky looking right above the trees, and it disappeared. And Chris was not looking up, but when the purple mist disappeared, Chris said, within a second, he says, okay, Bob, they're gone. We can go inside. So it was pretty clear he had some kind of connection with it. So we went inside, we talked about things that I might do. The flash bulbs, I thought I could build equipment to detect them because I had an idea of what they were. So anyway, I left and went home, and I had a hitchhiker follow me home. And I didn't know what I was going to do for Chris, but I had apports of water from midair sprayed in my face and on my body 3 times. I called up Chris and told him how could I help him. He told me how I could help him. I helped him build a talk where he told the world about what he was seeing and doing, put all this evidence in this talk and so forth, and we gave it at UFOCon 2020. And now Chris has released his book called UFO of God. But
What was that title again, Dr. Bob? UFO?
UFOs of God.
Oh, okay.
By Christopher Bledsoe.
Okay, how did he get that connection with UFOs and God?
During his 5th year after his initial abduction, he had a Marian experience and felt like he was talking to the Virgin Mary, and that these orbs were probably angels. He's a very religious person, so he had that kind of natural inclination toward believing this was Mary, angels, and so forth. And they gave him a mission. So anyway, I left and went on, and then after I retired and left Virginia Tech, at the end of about a year and a half, my mother began to fail last April. And Lala had seen me on Dave Scott's Spaced Out Radio as Science Bob, and she had some tragedy and was watching that show. It kind of provided her with relief. She saw me, and we were Facebook friends. She messaged me and said, when your mother passes, I'd love to give you a reading on the psychic medium. So I went over to visit my mother. While there, she went on hospice, invoked her advance directive was invoked, and within 2 weeks she had passed. Buried her, went home, and said, okay, my mother had these experiences while she was passing. She saw deceased relatives, and I think I'll take you up on the reading. So she gave me a reading, told me a bunch of things that only my mother knew and I knew. She told me several things that my mother knew, but neither me or my 4 siblings knew. But I could go and check with relatives and friends, and they turned out to be 100% true, all of them. So the readings are coming near to the end for my mother, and Lala says to me, there's a little feisty little 5'2" lady coming over here, and she's barking orders and all of those stuff. Rapid fire the Southern accent so fast, I can barely understand her, but I hear this word. She says the word is Tweety. Well, Dave, I was in shock. I was already like, wow, she's telling me my mother, I know this stuff is real. And then this lady walks up, says the word Tweety. And when I was 1, I used to spend time with my grandmother. She would call me sweetie, and I couldn't say the word, so I called her Tweety.
Tweety.
Okay, so I couldn't say the word Tweety, and that became her nickname for all the grandkids. Okay, so because I'm the oldest. Anyway, so that was really a life-changing experience, a lot of doing these readings for me.
Right.
So we began interacting, finally got together personally, and now we live together in Maryland.
Now, going back to the story about this Mr. Bledsoe, you said you saw purple colors. Do you know purple is a euphoric spiritual color? Lala probably might know about that as being a euphoric spiritual color. And actually, I've always been told that the ETs like purple as a color. And so
Oh,
I found out through a scientist that purple is a euphoric spiritual type of color, or it's a cloud, or maybe whatever it appears. But they actually go into what you believe in. They actually can read your mind. And you know this, Dr. Bob and Lala probably do, that when ETs read your mind, they can go into what interests you. Same thing as an angel. When you're in trouble, an angel comes and visits you. They can read your mind. They can come in any form that you are more, I guess, comfortable with. They don't come in the form with wings. Usually angels don't have wings, but if you think an angel has wings and they want you to visit, they'll come with wings. And that's so now we know how you got started, Dr. Bob.
Well, let me add something quickly. This
Okay.
is terrific. I'm really glad we're on this show, Dave, because you've informed me of something. My father is a Methodist minister, and he wore purple robes almost all the time, and he was a euphoric minister.
Well, yeah, it's the color that the yeah. I I love picking up pieces of the puzzle, and now I know how you got involved, Dr. Bob, in the ETs, UFOs, and we'll get to that. Lala, I want to turn to you, Laura, and Lala's a good nickname, but it's a you're an experiencer, an abductee, medium, and remote viewer, and starseed, and future ghost. Now, about ghost, could you tell us a little bit about your background with ghost?
yeah. So my dad was also a sensitive, and I think it's generational, honestly.
Yes, it is. It's a talent.
Yeah. And we were all, I'm O negative. My parents were O negative. I think that has something to do with it too, but I can't find any answers on that. But I've always felt them around. I've always seen and heard, and they do come to me in ways that don't scare me. I've noticed.
Mhm.
So you're correct. They can tell. And I guess the first time anything major happened that I remember, I was 5 years old and my grandma led me to her grave and my parents, realized I was a little different.
Mm.
And my dad started helping me along the way here and there as much as I would listen because I was hard headed about it. But I was always kind of scared of what I did and or I'd push it away. So I'd only do it every once in a while. But when I would do it, I would come out and help people and connect to their loved ones. Um, and everybody some people hated it and were mean. Some people were really nice about it.
That's that's with everything, Lala. It really is. It's with ETs and everything. Dr.
Right.
probably knows that you're going to please only half the people. The other half's going to turn away from you. But
Right.
in Ghost, and you're talking to the dead, Laura,
Hmm.
uh, can you explain what your definition of a ghost is?
When I say ghost, I mean someone who was human, living like us, and they passed away. So they have the same attitudes, same emotions. They're the same person. They're just energy beings now.
Mhm.
They're not in their skin vessel anymore. And each being has a different feeling and a different frequency sound. It's very interesting.
Mhm.
So ghosts, they feel alive. I feel excitement or love or passion or sadness. And aliens, they're very business. I don't really feel much at all. I feel overly calm around them, so uh, they can get what they need done quickly.
What race of aliens are we talking about that you've been visited by, Laura?
Um, all well, the tall whites, reptilians, recently the grays,
Mhm.
and different ones that weren't even humanoids. I didn't know that they had different creature looking ones. I had no idea until recently.
Mm-hmm.
But they all, because I have anxiety in general all the time, but each different race always makes me really calm. And sometimes I'll forget what happens afterwards. Most times I forget what happens afterwards when they visit. But like with the ones we have outside our home, I love it. It doesn't scare me at all. It's really calming, actually.
When she first began talking to me about this stuff, she was representing a dream she had throughout her life. And I would say, well, that may be a dream, but it's exactly like abductee experiences or people who've seen craft. The close encounters of the first, she had close encounters of the first, second, third, and fourth kind in these dreams. And I believe that they are actually hidden, repressed memories, especially after we've done the regression stuff with Deb Shaki. So I think they're memories. And she's had just the prototypical, stereotypical odd interactions with reptilians.
I've had real experiences too, besides that, like
Yeah.
the ones I remember. I've seen crafts up close. Like I've seen details of the underbelly of it. That was amazing.
Okay, could you tell us some of the details? A lot of people are interested in that, Lala. That the details of any ET or UFO. They want you to go details. So I've seen 6 of them up close too. So I'm with you. Okay, you got a big believer right here, 100%. So open up and tell us a little bit about those craft.
This one was weird. I didn't think it was going to look like that. So I saw the underneath of it, and it was like a dark metal or a black metal. It was at night. A government helicopter showing its spotlight through a cloud, and hiding in the cloud was this huge ship, and I drove under it, and it looked like a bunch of metal pipes, dark metal pipes intertwining with each other, but they were as big as the helicopter body. They were huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found that really odd because I never would have, I don't know if they were pipes, but that's the only thing I can think to describe it. Like, you know how a motherboard intertwines like
Right.
that?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, it's like a power anti-gravity device or connection. Dr. Bob might know about that. Now, getting to, let's say, ETs, ghost, angels, poltergeist, dimensional entities, they are all extraterrestrial because angels had to come in from other dimensions and come to us. So they're extraterrestrial. And that kind of dawned on me this past year studying and researching these things, that they're all extraterrestrial coming in from other dimensions. And actually they come in through portals. And I got pictures of portals where they've come in to my house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I know how they come in. So I think, what about a ghost, Lala? We'll go back to Dr. Bob on the CT thing, but about ghost, do you think some people say, well, that's residual energy that's left behind from a person? Do you think it's residual, and why do they show up in front of certain people and not other people, Laura?
I don't want to discredit anyone because it maybe sometimes it's residual. I don't know. But I know most times it's them. They've come back to connect with someone they care about and they're worried about, and they want to either say sorry or they want to say, I'm here with you. It's okay. I'm okay. Um, I've never experienced residual energy myself.
You should tell them the electronic voice phenomenon thing we had.
Yeah.
We got inside the house, we have the sensory camera. And so something set the light to switch on and off. So it set off the camera and then it records sound. And it was my boyfriend I was with for 15 years. He passed from cancer a little over 2 years ago. And he said, hello, Xander. And that's our son, Xander. And we have that. That's proof. That was amazing.
It's on our Facebook repository. Anybody can go listen to it.
Wow.
So it was this clear of electronic voice phenomenon, clearer than anyone I ever saw on television. It was, hello, Xander. And it was his voice,
Mhm.
according to them.
Yeah.
That's
That is not residual. That was an intelligent response because it flicked on the light. That triggered the camera and recorded the voice. And they didn't live here. We moved here.
Mhm.
It's not residual from here. So that's an active
Yeah.
ghost coming here.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, they do play ETs and ghosts. They do play with your cameras and your electronic devices. That
Yeah.
happens to me all the time. I've gotten a couple of pictures this past week. I set up my infrared trail cam in my office, and when I leave it, I turn it on. And sometimes I'll get a picture. Maybe it takes about 12, 15 pictures, but I'll always get a picture that's weird with a bright light and with something that looks like it's swooping down. And
Yeah.
I got a crazy one the other day. And you guys, I saw that you have pictures, and let me see the I think I have it written down where you it's a Google site that you guys have pictures on and that
Mm.
people can visit. And that's the there it's on google.com/drive/folders. Dwayne, I didn't take it all down, but that's a beginning. You might
And on Facebook, we have a
Facebook, we have a
public
public
for both of us.
public folder we share that
Right.
has all that stuff in it.
Anybody can see it.
So one other they should look at is we have this one of the security cameras outside, and this kind of thing comes down, lands on the deck, and gets really bright. I mean, the whole camera goes white, and then you see this energy shaped like a humanoid.
I've got that. Yeah.
Okay, and it reaches up and turns the camera. And as soon as the camera is turned where it wants us to point it,
The roof.
it disappeared. And right after that is when she started finding all these videos of the neighbor's roof being flown over by a craft and some kind of light showing up. And to me, it looks like the roof is becoming transparent so they could go through it.
Amazing.
Yeah, they dematerialize themselves actually in their ships and actually anything that they come across.
Yeah.
They can dematerialize and then materialize things. Now, both of you had, you catch this little UFO ET virus. Most people who's had UFO abductions don't even realize they've even had them.
Right.
And so when you, the two of you have had actually tangible proof that you've seen or been close, if you've been close 150 feet, Dr. David Jacobs, I know Dr. Bob, you probably studied him a little bit.
Oh yeah, I've read all his books.
Yeah, he's a great person. I met him one time and I told him about my abduction. But he said if you're within 150 feet of any UFO craft, he said they got you. They nailed you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're seeing craft close up, and Dr. Bob, you've been touched by them in that research study. Now, early on in life, Dr. Bob, you didn't have an ET experience.
I don't, well, I have these missing time things and I'll have these weird, strange modifications to my learning. I'm assuming it was some phenomenon related thing that taught me. I'm told that they take people up, take them to their craft and educate them. Well, something educated me how to read. Something educated me how to be an electrical engineer, an astronomer, and other things at 10 years old. And because I didn't have any of that in school, and I don't remember reading any books that were detailed enough to have taught me all that stuff. It just kind of bing happened by magic. So I'm assuming for whatever reason they trained me.
Right. Yeah, they do. And they do that at night too through your dreams, and they get into your consciousness and tell you things. Now you've had some missing time, you were just saying, Dr. Bob, right?
But and I mean, no, two cases, but Lala, she's had so much missing time. I don't think she can count how many times.
Can you tell us a couple of the most scary missing times?
Yeah. So the craft I was talking about after that, my best friend was with me at the time when it happened, and we don't remember that night. And I was driving on the highway, you know. And another time there were 5 very large orange orbs that went into a shape of a V over my parents' house, about 20 feet above the roof, real big. And my dad, we were best friends, and my dad was helping me take the trash out. And I go, Dad, do you see that? And he looks up right at it and he goes, no, real robotic, turns around, walks in the house. That wasn't like him. And then I looked back up at it and it started to go away one by one. And then I don't remember anything. I don't remember going in the house. I don't remember finishing the trash. It was very strange. And I've had other,
The artist face painting trip.
yeah, when I was doing a face painting gig in Virginia, I was finished. I was driving home with my best friend. She worked with me. And we were about almost 3 hours away from Baltimore. And I go to get gas. I get back on the highway. And about 5 minutes in, I'm at the Baltimore sign on the highway. I don't know how that happened. It was weird. It was, and I've had a lot of experiences like that. And I have an implant in my leg. I don't remember that happening. I don't have a scar. It doesn't hurt, but I set off the metal detectors at airports all the time. And it's been there for over, what, 10, about 15, 20 years now. And it's about the size of a piece of rice.
Now,
And we, huh?
can I ask you what machine picks it up at the airport?
The
There's
scanner, the body scanner.
the one that you stand up and it goes around.
I don't know whether that was the first one. I'm telling you, this last one. She says, let's see if it scans me. So she's back in the scanner and I'm already through looking. I'm looking at the little monitor the TSA agents look at, and a yellow box shows up on her leg, right where she told me the implant would be, and they wanded her right on her leg.
Yeah. That happened to me, Lala, that at the airports twice. Usually on international flights, you hold your arm up in the air and this machine
Yeah,
around you.
yeah.
That's the one that detects everything. Well,
Yeah.
when I come off of that thing, I had a TSA agent grab me by the arm, actually hurt my arm. He grabbed me. And my wife said, "Come on, let's go, honey." And he turned to her and he said, "He ain't going nowhere." I said, "Oh, what's wrong now?" And he points up at this human silhouette. Do you ever see the human silhouette outside the machine?
Mm.
It's there was 5 orange balls, round circles on it. And I said, "What's that?" He looks at me and he said, "You tell me." I said, "I don't know, sir. You're the expert." I said, what are those orange balls? I don't know about those orange balls. I have nothing on me." So they patted me down, they pulled me to the side, they checked me with a wand, they patted me down real good, made me take everything out of my pockets. And but then they'd give me a little card to carry on board the plane. Like the card actually didn't say it, but it's a kind of a notification for the crew to say, "Watch this guy," you know. Yeah, that's what they
Wow.
do. If you go through these machines and they find he said that they don't know what those are. That happened to me twice.
Wow.
So yeah, I now I can come. I know how you feel about that. I was scared to death.
Right.
I didn't know what to think, and still to this day, I'm afraid of that machine. If I go on international flights, that's when they do it. So I I don't like that machine because it does show up. I know of 2 implants, and you said you got one.
Mm.
And Dr. Bob, you got any implants? Have they?
I don't, but let me tell you about her other one. So she gets headaches. So, and we on occasion get little weird electromagnetic effects. So I got my tri-field meter and put it on RF sensing. And on our collection of stuff, you can see where I had her hold up the RF meter and move it around on her head until she got to 0.2 milliwatts per square meter right above her right eye.
Really?
And the body does not put out 0.2 milliwatts per square meter. I mean, this is some kind of implant in there that's transmitting.
Okay, that's on the electrical wattage area.
That's the RF wattage measurement. What wattage power flux? It's power flux density. It measures watt per square meter.
Okay.
So it had 0.2 milliwatts per square meter. It's a very strong emitter inside of her head.
I got a
Yeah,
tri. Is
that's
this
that's
one?
it.
This
That one does it.
Yeah, I know it's a good meter.
Yeah.
And you're a scientist, and you
Yep.
probably would refer that to anybody.
Yep.
But I think what the implants are for, I think maybe Lala might answer that. But Dr. Bob, with your scientific knowledge, what do you think the implants are for?
I think that they are, what a transmitter is transmitting something out to someone, or it wouldn't be in there. So it's either a locator beacon or information transmission beacon, or both. And the other thing is just some kind of sensor. It on occasion, not as often as the one in her head, beacons. So, on RF, but not as often. And I think it can receive and send and receive things from her being inside her body. And I think that they could, given that it's, has nerves in and around that attach to it, send signals into her nervous system. So, and in chemicals into her circulatory system. There's just any number of things that it can be. There's lots of things I know it would be capable of doing, but without actually having it out in my hand and seeing it in operation, outside of an occasional transmission of RF, I'd only be guessing as to what its purpose was.
Right. I think I had two, one in my left leg, and I had one in my testicle by all places. And when I was younger, after my first sighting, but those were like carbon based. Those were biological. And what those do, they melt into your body system. Because one of them that I put under a microscope, and I had a biological person who's an expert in the field, and she said they look like little brain membranes, like neurons, and it was kind of like going into the nervous system, feeding into the nervous system. And what it does, it tags your nervous system just like yours, Lala, and then you light up like a Christmas tree when you go into these detectors.
Mine's in my left leg also.
Yeah, everything, most of them are in the left side.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
and my left hand, I got one there.
I didn't know about the left side. Just one more thing. She would regularly leave her and her boyfriend's home and go out to the store, gas station, whatever, and have much missing time to the point where he'd write when she got back. And that happened all the time.
Wow, that's that. And also, you're a remote viewer. Which one of you are a remote viewer?
Both of us we both do it. She's better at it than I am, but both of us are taking remote viewing courses from Simeon Hine. But she knew she had remote viewing capabilities long before we got into class. She needs to take a break.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. We'll talk to Dr. Bob for a while, and
Yeah.
Okay.
and then Dr. Bob, on that remote viewing, did you learn this while you was into in the intelligence service? Did you learn anything about that there?
So I did not do that, but I knew about remote viewers because they were, well, I was at Fort Meade a lot, and apparently remote viewers are at Fort Meade. I knew about Hal Putoff and Ed May and Joe McMonigal and Russell Targ and so forth and so on. And I knew who they were, but I did not work with them.
Now I can see what the two of you are telling me. You were a smart young man, young boy, and of course gifted, probably through some kind of a download or upload from them. It's just like, Tesla and Einstein and Werner von Braun, they all pointed up and said, they give me the intelligence.
That's happened my whole life. I started two companies. The ideas I had for Federated Wireless and Hawkeye 360 came to me as sudden bolts of inspiration in downloads. And there, you can go find my name on the patents, right, where these downloads are now patented.
Wow. So you've been very successful at those downloads and uploads, just like these other scientists. Yeah. Now I can also see where Laura got her start in being involved in ghosts and ETs, because her father passed it down to her. He was open-minded. He was a very consciousness person, from what I understand.
Let me add one thing that's it's interesting information. So before she was born, he was very heavily interactive with and involved with the local Susquehanna Native American tribes here in Maryland, and so much so that they took him into the secret ceremonies like he was a member of the tribe. And in my opinion, given her description of the kind of things he would do, sweat lodges and this other thing, they treated him like he was a shaman and probably considered him a shaman.
Right. Yeah. But no, I can see where both of you got your start in your talents and your visitations, and where Lala got her ghost reading and dead people readings, things of that nature. Now getting to you met these scientists. Matter of fact, I was in the military and I was also sent to Redstone Arsenal. I had a top secret security clearance. I maxed out their test also, and I was able to pick that. But I got out of it because I didn't like it. I was a young man, only 19, about 20 years old.
My uncle was Werner von Braun's chief of security.
Really?
Yeah, because I grew up in Alabama. My uncle was in Huntsville. He was the chief of security. He was the security for moving all the rockets to Cape Canaveral.
So he had alien bodies stored in a bunker.
I was never told anything about my uncle, Uncle Willis.
Now, Uri Geller met von Braun, and he told that story on the air one time when we had him on there. But yeah, I got out of that program because I was going to go to Sandia, just like where you ended up, and I didn't want to go there. They opened your mail, they read your mail. You couldn't send anything off base unless they read it. And these military intelligence every week when they talk to you, especially a young guy, I said, I don't want to go to Sandia and go underground and disappear the rest of my life. So I got out of it. I had to get a post chaplain to get me out of it. But I'm glad you got into that and you were top secret. Are you still top secret, Bob?
So when I left May of 2020, the 2-year clock started, and in May of 2022, my clearance expired forever.
Okay. But you still can't talk about anything for 20 years.
Oh no, I have a life. Oh no. I have lifelong non-disclosure agreements.
Really?
The stuff I did was not playtime.
Right. Wow. Lala, we were talking while you were gone that I have an idea where you got your start, and you got your start from your dad probably, and they probably followed him, and then they tagged you. And I think Dr. Bob mentioned something about Indian tribes, and I've got Crow Indian in me. My mom's 1/4 Crow, and I'm about 12%, I guess, passed down. But they tend to follow Native Americans because they've been here thousands of years ago and they interacted with Native Americans, so they're following their bloodlines. And that's one of the things they're doing, but they're also checking our consciousness. They want us to be more open, and you two are helping doing that. And I appreciate you coming on and talking about your your events and experiences, because that allows other people to come forward and say, hey, yeah, this is real. We're not idiots. Things are going on, and now the government's finally catching up with it. Yeah. Can you tell us the most scariest time, Lala, that you had, either with ghosts or ETs?
With an ET, and I kept this to myself for a few years, and I told him
it's okay.
Finally. But I had a dream. I was having a dream that I was in a barn with reptilian looking things. I didn't know what a reptilian was. And there were other women next to me, and they were doing things to us, which was hybridization, they call it. And I woke up from the dream because it scared me. And when I woke up, I could still feel them. It felt like someone was having sex with me, but my legs were together closed. Yeah. Nobody was in the house with me. Nobody was there. And my brain, it didn't register. Like, I didn't know what was going on. And for a few seconds, they kept doing it. And then finally I snapped out of the trance and I freaked out. And I never talked about it because it was so weird, And then this isn't really scary, but it's odd. We got a picture in our front yard of, I guess, a gray alien.
It's a gray.
And you can see his face, his body, and it's very clear. And that night I got a triangle. It's still there a little bit, but it's a triangle bruise. I woke up to it.
That little dark spot is the remainder of her triangle bruise.
It was really dark.
I could see that, yeah.
And he woke up super late that
I
morning.
never sleep as late. I woke up 2.5 hours late. I never sleep that late.
Yeah, you were knocked down.
Oh yeah, they put me out and did stuff with her.
Yeah.
They do that with my wife when I'm in bed. They because she can hear little things like a cell phone drop on a carpet. But several nights I shook the bed violently because I was frozen, and she didn't wake up. So what they do to your partner is they do put them to sleep or make sure they stay asleep. And
Yeah.
that's what happened with you, Lola. Now, didn't this reptilian looking creatures, they scare you? Did they shapeshift at all?
I only saw the reptilian in my dream, and it was very muscular, very tall, and it had a strange, creepy mask on with horns, and
Mm,
it was holding something in its hand that looked, you know, anyway. But when I woke up, I felt it happening, but I didn't see anything.
yeah,
It was just invisible.
yeah.
And it was very detailed. There's no question what was going on. And it's just strange. But then I finally admitted to him what happened. And he told me a lot of people go through it.
Right.
They just don't talk about it that much.
Yeah. Well, extraterrestrials can be invisible. And when they come in your house,
Mhm.
nobody really thought of that, for some years until they started thinking, okay, they have cloaking devices. They can cloak themselves and be invisible. Because I've know they've been in my house and I've had infrared camera, and maybe Dr. Bob can expound on that.
Mhm.
An infrared camera, Dr. Bob, that will pick up an invisible entity, right?
Yes, because every object gives off black body radiation according to the temperature it is. It's just impossible for them to block off the infrared radiation that comes from their body heat.
Mhm.
So the infrared camera sees their body heat. Okay, so the yeah, I mean, people want to have multispectral cameras if they want to take photos and videos.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. It's that I think that I had somebody make comments about, that no, that's not true. You can't pick up, these entities on infrared, but I've got pictures and I got
Okay.
videos to show it. And I know
So
you,
do we.
yeah, so do you guys. I've seen some of your pictures. Now, some of these streams of light, I've seen other people post those. They're outside and there's streams of light that come down. And you guys
Mhm.
have some pictures of those. What are
Yeah.
those? Could you explain those?
So we don't know always.
They're
So
called rods.
they're called, but so a couple of the videos we had early that had things that looked a little like that, it was raining. So we have stopped putting up stuff that we see that happens during the rain because we don't want to be accused of videoing
Oh,
rain.
can I say they love to camouflage with
Oh,
things.
yeah.
When it rains, there's different ones that come out in between. I've noticed this. They like camouflaging, and when you notice them, then they really come out and they stop camouflaging.
So we can detect the ones that are raindrops and ones aren't. They typically have curved paths. Light doesn't have a curved path.
Mhm.
They have curve, and it's perfect curves. It's not something a bug can do because they're perfect curves. Sometimes they have little appendages on them, so you think, is that a bug? But then you go, wait a minute, it's 22 degrees outside.
There's
And
a flat one that looks like an orb, but when it goes like this, it looks like a sheet of paper.
yes,
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
yeah, we just so Dave, it's hard to remember all that we've seen.
Yeah, I know. You've got the pictures to back that up on Facebook and also on Google. And I hope people will check that out because know what you're talking about.
That we're getting better cameras.
Yeah, that's costly too. But yeah, it's a good thing if you're a researcher and you want to get involved in this. And this just like me, I want to find out the truth. I want to put pieces of the puzzle together. Getting back to you, Lala, Laura, but the scariest ghost thing that's happened to you. Let's get to that one.
Let's see. I okay, well, I gave a reading to someone. He was Cuban and he had ancestors that dabbled in magic.
Uh,
But he didn't. And his wife passed and I was giving him a reading. And I didn't know that he had an attachment. And I didn't find out till later. Now this thing would bother me in my dreams, in waking life. And in dreams it would show up as a little boy, but demonic. I mean, it scared the crap out of me, honestly. It would bother me in real life and make things fall over and creepy sounds. And I eventually had to go to a new age store and say, look, this is what's going on. I don't know what to do because this is new to me. This type of experience is new to me.
mhm.
And they gave me some things to do, and it did work, but that really scared me. And after my dad passed, I guess because of trauma, I saw a lot of shadow people. Water bubbled up like it was boiling from the tile floors and then was dry. Things were falling over and breaking. Vases with beads were shaking. I mean, it was a lot.
And we've had orbs fly off our orbs, ornaments fly off our Christmas tree here. Things get knocked off the shelf. Things lift up and fall back down on the shelf. We just, well, I think we're beyond feeling afraid of it. It just happens. And we
Right.
go, oh, there they are again.
Yeah. Nothing new. Yeah.
Nothing new.
I get used to that too. And a lot of people think, well, aren't you afraid? You know, I said, well, yeah, you're a little nervous at first when you see an ET standing by your bed. Yeah, you're a little afraid at first, but then they knock you out and you don't know anything really. But
Yeah.
then you regress some things. Some experiences are cerebral. They're all into the consciousness, and some are tangible and cerebral. Those are the ones that are really, exciting to hear about. You see a ship and you say, okay, the next day I had this regressed dream that I was on board that ship and I saw these creatures. And so you got a connection, you got a seed there. And something, I think in the notes you said, Lala, that you're a star seed. Now, how do you know that? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So a couple years ago, it was nighttime before bed. I looked up at the stars and I said, I was just talking to the universe and I said, where is my home? Because this doesn't feel like home. It never did. I don't fit in. And so I went to bed, and that night I had a dream and it said M56. And so when I woke up, I Googled M56, and it's Lyra and Pallades and Draco, and I didn't know anything about. I knew nothing, and tons of people are into this, and it kind of led me there, and I started having more dreams of these beings after I figured out what they meant, and it connected, and I feel like these beings that visit now, I feel like they're family and friends. It's very comforting kind of feeling.
A quote dream unquote that she has had is she's standing in a room like she is being questioned, surrounded by a bunch of entities, aliens, if you will, sitting at a table, and she's telling them, me and my team can accomplish this mission if you will trust us. That sounds to me like these stories I've heard, and she's not human, by the way, then. So it sounds like these stories of talking to the Galactic Council and telling them you'll do the job they want. Don't know these stories, but I've heard them, and her so-called lucid dream sounds exactly like them.
Right.
I wonder sometimes if I keep going back to the O negative, but also I wonder if some of the people with what do you call them? Put it in you. Implants. I wonder if some of them are hybrids that they just track and help out. Because someone said, do you want to take it out? And I go, well, I don't know if it's helping me. I don't know. Or I just don't know.
Right. Well, there's actually two interests in our bodies. We're made up of a physical body, matter, and we're made up of a soul, of a spirit. And they can't touch our soul or spirit because it's too powerful for the ETs. So they can't bother that. They can only check out your body. And I think what they do, they keep track of our DNA. They actually manipulate our DNA through thousands of years, starting way back. I had one scientist say 3.5 million years ago, we've been here and left, and we've had these apocalypses happen to us and end our human race, and then we come back. But in everything that you've learned in physics and quantum things of study, Dr. Bob, does any of that, all that make sense about us coming back and forth in our soul and our spirit?
So your timing is nearly perfect. So first of all, during my regression, I recalled the tall grays coming down and changing my tribe, changing our genetics. And at the end of my life, I was more intelligent than I was when they came. Okay, so that was regression memory.
Right.
But I'm also begun, given all this stuff, a really deep dive into the science of consciousness. and I'm following several people and looking at what they're doing, coming up with ideas. And what I'm trying to do is connect consciousness to our version of physics. And people are right there. They're right before having it.
Mhm.
So Dr. Donald Hoffman is a cognitive scientist at the University of California, Irvine. He graduated with his doctorate from MIT, working with a really great group. So he's really smart. And several years ago, he proved a mathematical theorem that said our senses, these things we call senses, which are connected to our brain, do not perceive reality. That evolution will not and cannot select for a being where their senses perceive reality. Your senses perceive an illusion, and the purpose for this illusion through your senses is to help you optimize the survival of your species. So it's an evolutionary argument. Okay, and he's got all this work and all this math proof that shows it. That's number one. So he got sick. He was gone for a year. I wondered where he was. He had COVID and almost died, but he came back from COVID after having almost died. And suddenly he had a theory of consciousness that was really interesting. So he has these mathematical objects. I'm just going to tell people what they are without going into a lot of detail. They're called decorated permutations. And the decorations are essentially zeros and ones. So the decorations are two colors. One color I call zero, and the other color I call one. Some people call them yellow, some people call them green. You get the idea. But they're binary. Okay, so with these decorated permutations, he can write down a system that is like his conscious agents, and the way they change is they are involved in a probability space called a Markov chain. Let's not worry about what all that means. What it is I've got a bunch of objects, I can manipulate them, and they change to give us a new circumstance. So he has shown that these decorated permutations, their Markov model, if projected down into our limited consciousness, suddenly when that projection loses some information along the way, because it's coming from a great big huge universal consciousness down the little tiny kernel we are, and that gives us space-time. Time comes from the loss of information, and space-time is our interface to the actual reality. And that quantum mechanics and gravitation come from this consciousness thing. And as a part of his work, he's shown that the universal consciousness is required.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've talked to other scientists who share, you know, your research and your findings, and everybody's almost getting to be on the same page. Wouldn't you say, Dr. Bob?
I would. So the materialists, they're failing and fading, in my opinion. And Dr. Roger Penrose, who just won the Nobel Prize for the 6th or 7th thing he should have won the Nobel Prize for, but he finally won one for his work with Stephen Hawking on the singularity of black holes. He proved that you didn't have to have this perfect sphere collapse into a point to get a black hole. You could have a blob that just collapsed and became a black hole. So he figured all of that out. He got a Nobel Prize for it. He has gone through detailed mathematical arguments which show that consciousness is not a computational program on a computer. And his argument is based on Gödel's incompleteness theorem and the lack of the ability to write down a program that can achieve understanding or know when it has occurred. Okay, so in other words, a machine is never going to be able to know it understands.
Mm-hmm.
So you can barely even define it. What do you mean by understanding? So anyways, so these set of arguments say to me as I go through them that consciousness cannot be in this computer or in any computer. The consciousness is bigger than this computer. It's connected to something else that feeds it. So this is like our interface to the real consciousness.
Right. And it's universes, I mean, multiverses, whatever, that all this is originating, and everything's light. I heard that when light slows down, that's when matter is created. When light slows to a slowness or whatever, then it creates matter. So it's all connected. And like Saint, the source, God, you know, you go back to Native American Indians, they come up with these stories too. How did they know so much? You know, how did they know that this was like this and the universe was like this? And they had little drawings and rock carvings and stuff that just tells, you know, that somebody taught them something. Now, I'm really curious about how you two, I know you're a psychic, Lala, and also you're into the ghost and readings, and you're also a starseed, and Dr. Bob is a scientist and he gets into physics. How do you two melt your talents together, and what do you think has come about during the two of you's, you know, coming together with your different expertise? Anything really come out?
I mean, it's so natural for us. It's odd. We're totally two different people that complement each other in this field. And I think that the aliens and beings and ghosts, I think they're more drawn to us because they can communicate better with us as a team.
So let me give you the kind of the obvious, the easy obvious. She had all these abilities long before I showed up.
Mm.
Right.
She had things coming around her long before I was around.
That's right.
But not until I came around was there ever an instrument that could record what she was seeing and
Right.
feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm the technical person putting together cameras and instruments and other things that can show everybody in the world that she is actually having these experiences. And then after the two of us got together, we've come up with this concept for how to achieve, using technological means, two-way communications with light beings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so those two things alone tell you that that's kind of obvious, what the reason for our being together is and the outcome of our being together.
Now, the beginning of both of you, we've been talking about, but you were talking, Dr. Bob, that you had a hitchhiker and you had this water spilled on. I wanted to delve into that a little bit more. Where do you think that come from? What was that all?
Another dimension, because it appeared right out of the middle of the air.
From Chris's house.
A portal from the entity that Chris is out there, a portal opened up and the water flew in my face.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if they can make purple smoke, they can make water.
Yeah. What about the frogs and the fish that fall out of the sky?
Well, they opened a portal to an ocean and they poured them through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always thought about that. And a lot of people were wondering about it. Maybe there are some scientists who's figured it out, but they've been told to hush up. You know, so there's a lot of things they keep away from us.
You keep hearing these rumors about Obama going into the jump room, so there you go.
In the jump room. That's
he went into a room where we have a device that opens a portal, and they call it the jump room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're just talking about Reagan on the Nimitz. Yeah. And that flying saucer there, or the UFO. That jump room is a teleporting, I guess. And they've had this expertise for some time now, I guess you could say. Is that something you can talk about?
I don't know of it personally. I'm just telling you, look, we have all sorts of intelligence inside the intelligence community, including rumint. That's rumor intelligence. Rumors get passed around.
Right.
And what we have, Lala's correct. We are certain we have a portal in our backyard.
We have a video of a portal. It's a circle and a light goes around it. It's black, and then all of a sudden it lights up.
Because something comes out of it.
Yeah.
Something comes out of it.
Right.
So we have one picture, which I think is in our album, but if not, we need to put it in there. Yeah, but of this gigantic ball portal, or gigantic ball between us and the neighbor's house. I mean, and not everybody can see it, but I look at that and I see alien faces in it.
Right.
It's good for us as we learn. We're teaching other people new things because I didn't know about half this. I knew I felt things, but I didn't know until I could see it. The hidden world. It's amazing. And I asked them questions, yes or no questions. And one of my questions was, are we supposed to be helping you in some way, in like a peaceful way? And the answer is yes. So if you have questions later on, I can ask them for you and videotape it. It's really interesting.
Right.
So in the orbology group, I would say our experiences, which we share continuously as they happen, we are seeing people pick up the techniques and the technology we're using and begin to use it. And we're talking about people that have seen orbs for 20 years. They've never taken a video. Now they're taking videos the way we do, and it's pretty impactful on them.
Right. Yeah. That brings about, the truth. The pictures don't lie. You can, if you take a look at it, there's so much computer generated stuff nowadays that it's actually poisoning the truth.
Yeah.
That's another thing. And then we have talking heads who are supposed gatekeepers, but they've never had an experience.
Right.
And they're the ones who call us idiots. Actually, they use our stories and everything, but then they turn around and call us idiots.
The three of us are in violent agreement
Yeah.
about the people that talk and have never done anything.
Right, but they what they do is they judge us.
Yeah.
Being kooks, and then they go and they're turning to the military because the military is starting to leak out things. They're turning away from us everyday experiencers and people on the street, and because they think we're kooks. So they're gonna go to people that are they're smarter than we are, but they're not smarter. And people see things. I got my mom was 85 when she saw this big giant triangle over the neighborhood that flew right over my house. So she was older and she saw this and she was scared to death. So is she stupid because she's 85? Is she the typical beyond stupid person? It's just not military pilots. I was in the military, and Dr. Bob, you work with the military. You know that we're not really trained about UFOs. I was never, we never talked about it. So how do these Navy pilots and these commercial pilots, how come they're now all geniuses because they see a UFO?
Because they're finally being allowed to talk about them.
Yeah.
They're finally being allowed to talk about it. Look, I was on the USS Blue Ridge, which is a surface ship, a helicopter carrier, and I was on the USS Hampton, which is a nuclear-powered submarine, attack submarine. I heard a USO in the submarine, and I saw a UFO in the Navy, and that's my 2 trips like that. So if 2 for 2, I see and hear stuff, imagine what it's like actually being in the Navy and out there all the time. They're nonstop seeing and hearing stuff.
Yes, they are. Yes.
Nonstop.
Yeah. Now, Lala, you have these UFOs coming over your house. I imagine now they're coming over both of you where you live, and they still continue to this day. They're checking up on you. Dr. Bob, I guess, have you seen an ET up close like Lala has?
I have not, only through cameras.
Only through cameras, but that's
that I recall.
Right. Do you think I think we coming down to the general question, and we talked about implants and everything else. What is their purpose? I mean, they're studying our physical body. Maybe these containers that we have, they're using them on other planets. There's humans out there somewhere else in our galaxy. That's a fact.
I don't understand why all these entities that keep showing up in movies and in people's experiences are all humanoid. That makes no sense to me. How do you have parallel evolution all across the galaxy with 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth and ears? So something is saying, let's try 100 different variants of this form and see which one works best. That's what that says to me.
Right. Now the both of you work with UFOCon, right? Could you tell us a little bit about that organization? What both of you's thoughts about that organization?
It's not an organization, it's a yearly conference.
Okay.
And it's run by Lorian Fenton. She's on the board of directors of MUFON, and she is a lifelong experiencer and a psychic herself. And she gathers experiencers together in San Francisco every spring. And they come, and sometimes government people come, sometimes scientists come, etc. And each of those government people and or scientists, they get to hear experiencers talk about what's happened to them. And so it's kind of a place where all these experiencers can get together and feel safe and talk to each other.
Right. And Lala, what do you think about that? What you contribute to that, or are you're interested in ghost and also ET and UFO, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So what do you think about this UFO con? Do you get involved in, I guess I'm getting also down to the part where you guys told me earlier that there's been TV shows that are talking to you. And I'd like to ask you both. Now I'm going to just break that other question a little bit off and then go into this, but ask you both what drew their attention to you too, besides a lot of pictures and things of that nature. What is the most valuable thing, Lala, that you brought to the table to their attention?
Being genuine, they can see.
No.
And they can tell that I'm a little different and things are drawn to me. And that's interesting to a lot of people.
Right.
I think it's weird because, but other people, it's entertaining, it's interesting, they want to know more. So
All right.
Actually,
let me say,
okay.
I am not bragging. I want you to understand, I'm not bragging about her, but I don't know people that are Facebook friends with her. And everyone in your audience will know who these people are.
Mm-hmm.
There's James Fox, Dave McDonald, Russell Targ. I can go on and on and on through the list. Why are they interested in her? Because they know she's genuine. They know she has real abilities. And people that have seen her and interacted with her know that she has real abilities.
and I have pure intentions. That's why these beings talk to me, because my heart is in the right place. And that's for anybody. If you want to talk to them and get answers or whatever you want to do, have pure intentions,
Okay.
because they
Now,
can tell.
right. Talking to ghosts or the dead, you're saying, is that what you're saying to the ghost and to the dead people?
And aliens and
Okay.
dimensional beings, you have to have a pure and heart intentions. Yeah.
Right. Your consciousness has to be strong. And I noticed that too with both of these, really, from your experiences. On now, talking about what they tell you, what are some of the most phenomenal things that you've heard from either a ghost or, or an ET?
Um, well, one time when my dad traveled a lot when I was little, and I would get angry because it'd be so long, I forget what he looked like and this and that. And one time I said, I wish his plane would crash. I was like 8, it was stupid. And a man's voice said, be careful what you wish for it may come true. So years later, I was thinking about it. I felt bad still, and I apologized to my dad. He didn't know, but I apologized to him. And he goes, it's funny. The plane was late because at the very last minute they noticed something wrong with the engine, and we had to switch planes. So I not that was very interesting. Our words are powerful. That's what I was taught. Our intentions and thoughts and words create everything around us eventually.
It's true. It's what Dr. Bob was alluding to also, consciousness.
So I do not know what opens the little hole in the top of my head and pours these ideas in. They just appear there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like these flashes of inspiration. And for a long time, I just said, okay, you have flashes of inspiration. But now it feels like the things that have come to me are significant enough that there's an intention. The thing that I can just give one example. Again, this is not right. I'm trying to give an example.
Yeah.
The field that Hawkeye 360 is working in is 55 years old and had all sorts of brilliant people working in it, and they're billion-dollar spacecraft being built to do this stuff. So I have an idea or two. I go out and found a company, and we're putting up 128 satellites, and it'll do the same thing these billion-dollar spacecraft do, that for 50 to 100 times less money. And the government is going to take those commercial spacecraft and put it into the national constellation. That came from some kind of flash of inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that is my interaction with whatever this intelligence is.
Well, I tell you what, we talk about the different departments of of our thoughts and what we think and our theories. Scientists have theories. Us average people have sightings. We have visions. We have dreams, and we see all this stuff, and we can pick it up. Uh, but nothing has. They don't really want us to know the truth about everything at all. I mean, ghosts don't want us to know the truth about them, or they would sit in front of a camera and talk about it, or telepathically tell us about it, and ETs would do the same.
Mhm.
They don't. There's something. Why don't they come and talk to us and tell us the truth? Both of you, that question.
I
What is it that
think,
they're hiding? What is it, the big secret that they're hiding from us, ETs and ghosts?
I think humans as a group are too selfish and immature to really handle everything. I think people would use it for a lot of bad things. Not everybody, but there's a lot of greed in the world. And I think when we pass, I feel that we get to know everything again. But here, I think we're only allowed to know certain things because whatever's here makes us think about me for a lot of people. And that's dangerous with too much information.
Okay, so before I told you that, why are all these things around us that come and visit us and so forth, look humanoid. So let's suppose each of these humanoid things is some higher being's experiment. You don't come and tamper with your experiment in the middle of running it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, I guess my thoughts are that the reason why they don't tell us the truth is because we're supposed to live this life. We're supposed
Yeah,
to go through.
that's essentially what I meant.
Yeah, and we're supposed to feel pain, love, and we're supposed to learn these things. This is a learning place, this earth, and us human beings.
Yeah.
And I look at reincarnation as being real. I don't know how you two
Yep.
feel about that, but we recycle, we come back. And do we bring all of our memories back with us? Not really.
Mhm.
I mean, Lala, have you ever had a past life regression?
Yes,
With Deb Shakti, yeah,
both of us have.
she's wonderful.
Mm.
Um, just one time. It was very interesting. And I do believe in that. And there's even some kids that remember who they used to be in a past life. I saw it on TV one time.
Yeah.
And I believe it. I think we go everywhere different. I think we go to different Earths with different humans. I don't think it's just one Earth. I think it's all kinds of different things going on.
Leslie Kane's Surviving Death on Netflix is worth watching.
Yeah.
Because she gets demonstration after demonstration after demonstration after demonstration of life surviving death and old souls coming into new bodies.
Yeah.
Multiple pieces of evidence.
Right.
It's worth watching.
Yeah, that's a good referral out there for people to take a look at. In the scientific community, Dr. Bob, I know they don't get involved in life after death. Some of them are actually studying it and going into it, and also reincarnation or religion. They stay away from that. Academia is kind of like that. But their intent is to research what their specialty is. Why do you think science is actually turning their backs to a lot of this, miraculous stuff or this supernatural stuff?
Well, there's a line from a movie that applies. No bucks, no Buck Rogers. And what I mean by that, research at a university runs on funding.
Mhm.
That you have to have good ideas. You also have a source of funding, or you can't pay for yourself, your lab, and your graduate students. So if nobody's going to fund the research into ghosts, there's no research into ghosts going to be done. So the handful of places that do this actual work, somebody rich came along and endowed the work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because the government and the National Science Foundation and all these entities that fund everybody else's quote normal work, they're not funding ghost work. They're not funding UFO work. So private individuals wind up through foundations funding this stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so it's very limited for that reason.
Right. What do you think about these other organizations like MUFON and there's other UFO organization, UAP studies, and the recent disclosure that's going on with the military, Dr. Bob? Do you think this is going to be a drip, or is this going, or are we going to see something this year?
I don't believe we're going to, I believe that inside the government and all the circles surrounding it, where these kind of secrets are held, it is absolutely determined that we will discuss no UFOs for which there is government evidence before the Emmons. And what evidence we have, what testimonials we have of things being seen before then, it'll be limited to the Maelstrom Air Force Base, the Foo Fighters, and things like that. And no one is ever going to touch Roswell. No one is ever going to talk about it. That's how I feel. Am I wrong? I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't think I think with I guess it's Louis Alzandra and these other guys, Dr. Greer, they work for both sides. I'm sorry, that's what I think, and I'm not quite sure they're going to give us straight up, evidence or proof of the disclosure movement. I hope so. We've heard word that this year is supposed to be a big year for disclosure. Maybe next year.
We're supposed to have public hearings within a month.
Yeah.
Now, look, if they're going to get serious, here's how to get serious. Get the name of every person that we know for whatever reason has some knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Subpoena them, put them in front of the country, swear them under oath, threaten them with prison if they lie, and ask them questions. It's just never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
We're going into the tail end of this show. So you both work together. What are your future plans? And I know you spoke about the TV shows that you might be entertaining. There's other possibilities. You two going to start your own video show, and that's great. I think you both have a calling from the other side.
Thank you.
And you're the sixth person we've talked to, but by the end of the show has told us that. So it must be true.
Right. You have a calling, and I think everybody like you too that can really, survive the pounding that we get on skeptics and people who call us crazy. And also I have to bring in, I'm sorry, but I have to bring in the talking heads that actually I just hope when you guys do your TV shows that you guys stay, like you are, and stay very honest and straightforward. And like you said, you're unique and you're believable. Stay that way, because that's what it's going to take to get through this and pierce this bubble that we all need to pop. Now, you got future plans. First, we'll go to you, Lala. Your future plans working together, and what do you envision you're going to be doing in the near future and going on forward?
Well, I know we're working with Jimmy with communications, so eventually everyone can communicate with other alien beings. And that we just started all that, really. I know he wants to write a book. Both of us write a book.
Badly. I'm driving her crazy.
Yeah, I know about writing. It's a lot of work, and Dr. Bob, you've probably written essays and articles and papers in your work, and that's probably about 1/10 of what you will be involved in when you get into a book. And yeah, it's a tough thing. You just have to say, I got to do it. At my older age, I started a year and 2 months ago writing a book. Something told me to do it, and something's telling you to continue what you're doing and get this out to the public and help enlighten people. And that's my job also. Yeah. I'm told to do this to enlighten people and have people, good people like you, straightforward, honest people who have evidence and facts and have it in your heart to push for the truth and enlightenment of others. So finish, I'm sorry about butting in, but Lala, you wanted to finish what your goals are in your direction, and then we'll go to Dr. Bob.
Yeah, just I know that the beings do baby steps with me. So within a year, they're probably going to be landing in our yard, not just on the neighbor's roof. And I'm excited to see where they take me, because I'm being led, if that makes sense. And then I'm telling people what I find. People come to us for comfort, or because they're afraid to talk about certain things, they come to us. So everybody's always welcome. And if we can't help, we know very professional, kind people who can help.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me ask you a John Lennon question. He was asked, if he wanted to go with them, the ETs, and he's had a couple of experiences that he talked about, and he was given a little round object as a gift, and he gave it to a good friend. He passed it on, but they don't know where it's at, but maybe the government got a hold of it. But they asked him to go with them. Lala, would you go with them if they come to you and said, you want to go with us?
I mean, if they brought me back, yeah, because I have a child,
Okay, yeah.
but if I didn't have any responsibilities, I might go. Yeah,
It'd be curious to see another world, see what
yeah.
Dr. Bob, to you now, what is your future plans? And I know you got a book now you're talking about, and maybe a couple of TV appearances, and you're going to do a show just like this. What's your future plans, Dr. Bob?
So, I feel I am the luckiest guy that ever lived. I'm living in a scientific laboratory with the most unbelievably powerful, capable people who, just by the fact that I'm near her and with her, I'm going to see all this stuff. So my major goal is help her get all the evidence she could ever get. The book will be better. The TV shows will be better. She'll be happier. Her son can be proud of her. And so, and I'll get all sorts of stuff that I'll need technical explanations for, technical things to work on. I'll be extremely satisfied doing it. Now, outside of the work we're doing together, I'm doing a couple of things with two universities because I love to teach students. And so they have nothing to do with the phenomenon.
Okay, great. Now, I guess what we're going to do at this point is talk to you about where we can find a lot of your work. Oh, I was going to go back. Here's what I forgot to say, but just to be a little on the light side, that Dr. Bob, Lala is kind of the bait trap for all these entities and these ghosts coming, and you're the one that's going to be the hunter and gather this information for. That's a good combination. That's a good team. You had the draw, he has the technique of capturing all this. That's a good deal. That's great to prove to people. And I know that if they go on Facebook and they go on Google, they'll find your pictures. But where else can they find your work and your pictures? Tell us. I got partial part of the Google address, but could you tell us where we can find your pictures and things of that nature?
Lala Bright on Facebook, it's public. Robert McGwier Facebook, it's public. The albums and the photo pictures are where else?
We Lala Bright. What is your Twitter address?
59. What was it? 59.
Lala Bright 59 is on Twitter, and I'm Bob McGwier N4HY on Twitter, and both of us to put up all sorts of stuff there. So right now we're using mostly social media. Our YouTube channel and Facebook page is Orbis, ORBIS Paranormal. Orbis Paranormal is both YouTube and Facebook. It will be Instagram. It will be it's also on Twitter. So we're going to feed all of our stuff out there. And so there'll be a regular stream of stuff that comes from us that will get spread all over social media. And all of that evidence will be folded into the things we write about and do videos about.
Right. And I'm glad you've been on. You come on the show. I'm glad that that we had this conversation. It's you sound like you're saying you're very original people. You're coming off very logically, and I like that.
We cannot leave here after talking about Orbis Paranormal and all this other stuff without thanking Terrence B for doing all of this unbelievable work in the background, getting us set up. He is a great guy.
He's got a YouTube channel. He's on Facebook. He's amazing.
He's in Perth, Australia, and he is just a super guy.
Great. I've talked to some Australian buddies, and they're great, and UK people, and they're great. So I know these people are all into it, and they're into the enlightenment and everything. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, I recognize that.
Oh, he is such a great guy.
Well, I think we're going to close the show, and I'm going to thank both of you.
Thank you so much,
Laura and Dr. Bob. Thank you so much, Dr. Bob McGuire and Laura Bright, Lala, and that's a Southern name, right? Is that where we thought about that a while ago? Is that a southern
I
nickname?
guess Southern Maryland, I don't know.
Southern Maryland.
I mean, her dad made it up before she could speak.
Yeah.
It's yeah, but it's a neat name to go by, and
Thank you.
it could be a good trademark name pushing forward with all this information.
Mhm.
I want to thank the both of you. You've been listening to the Dave Emmons Show, and I'm really glad that we had a chance to talk to these two great people. And I want to thank them very much, Lala and Dr. Bob. Thank you guys, and see you all later. And hope that you enjoy this show. Thank you, everybody, for following and viewing my shows. And of course, I'm going to be going to another network. But you'll be seeing the shows. So I said that earlier on, and but I will actually concentrate on making sure that I get the Facebook pages and the people that have been following the show. I thank you very much. Good night, everybody, and thank you for joining us.